Welcome to your post-game report on the Jazz Huddle. Tonight we had a really tough loss for the Jazz, 123 to 131 to the Philadelphia 76ers. Addison had to tap out because he was just livid after that game, and I don't blame him. I mean, there was a really terrible call in that fourth quarter. Royce O'Neal had it, he stripped it away from the 76ers. He was inbounds as he looked to throw it down to Donovan Mitchell, but they called him out of bounds. Even after a replay, which should have had that call overturned, they still kept it as it was, and the Jazz fell. I mean, they really fell apart after that, and they absolutely hit a brick wall. 123 to 131. They had not scored in the last probably minute and a half of that overtime, which just can't happen if you want to win a game that's that close, you know. But I mean, overall, just a heck of a game by the 76ers. You got to give it to him. Joel Embiid, 40 points, 3 assists, 19 rebounds. And here's the thing. Rudy Gobert might have had the worst game that I've ever seen him play. It was really bad. 12 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. On paper, it looks okay. 40% from the floor. But again, 40% from the floor. If all he's shooting typically is going to be dunks and layups and some floaters, maybe here and there, then that's an issue. And here's the problem. He also took a mid-ranger, which is not what we want to see from Rudy Gobert. He needs to be running that point man. But he also got severely out-rebounded, 9-19. And that's also kind of what killed the Jazz. And if we look at the team stats here, we saw that field goals, the Jazz actually took more than the 76ers did. And at one point, the Jazz were shooting over 60% from the field. We also saw Donovan Mitchell break down at the end of that fourth quarter and heading into overtime. He just could not make a shot. And the problem is that when you go into situations like that overtime, you can't be trying to play hero ball. It's not going to work. If he tries to do everything, that's okay in a lot of situations. But in this one specifically, he had not made a lot of shots. So I don't think that it was the right way to go for Donovan. On the other side, I mean, you really had a really tight game. The Jazz still somehow out-rebounded the 76ers 52-50. But one of the things is, in the overtime situations, and Quinn Snyder hasn't had to experience this in a long time. Again, 12 of the wins in February, which was actually all of them, were by double digits. They hadn't really had to go play a tight game with somebody, and now that they do, they're just having issues with execution. And you have Quinn Snyder, who's, he's trying to drop these plays, but they're not going out and making them happen. And it's been an issue. They need to fix it, and I think that they're capable, but the answer is not Donovan Mitchell taking contested threes every time down the floor. The answer is not running a play with 27 seconds left where you have Jordan Clarkson shooting a contested three from the corner, and he was also fading. It's not the way to go. The Jazz have to be better in that facet of the game, and 73% from the field goal or from the free throw line tonight for the Jazz could have won on the game. 5 points right there, and then you add in maybe a 3, and then you're right in it, But assists for both teams, they were even. They were really moving the ball, especially the Jazz early in the game, but I'm sure they averaged more than 22 assists. You have to keep the ball movement going, and they started out really well, actually. 34 points in that first quarter, 27 in the second, 28 in the third, and 29 in the fourth, so they just kind of went up the ladder there. But in the third and fourth quarter for the Philadelphia 76ers, 32 and 34 points. I mean, you got to hand it to them, though. Their offense was fantastic, and they really played a nice game. And we saw a lot of bully ball moments with either Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons just going inside and absolutely taking over for the 76ers. And that was just, it was fun to watch, to be honest. I mean, I like to see when they do that, but also Rudy Gobert was just non-existent in this game. Only 1 block for the Jazz and 6 for the 76ers, and that kind of shows you what kind of shot selection we were getting. We weren't getting the shots that we needed in order to win that game. Total turnovers, the Jazz had 5 more, and those were also converted by the 76ers. They had 11 points off of turnovers. The Jazz actually had 25. They were converting really well in that spot, but you have to be able to play that kind of defense in the overtime. And they also kind of they broke down. We saw guys, especially for the Jazz, losing their head, and it was at the end. It was especially Mitchell. It was also basically the whole team. Every time there was a call, they would overreact towards their team, towards the Jazz. If there was a call, there was actually 2 technicals right at the end of that game, and it just killed them. That gave Philadelphia a technical free throw, 2 regular free throws because Embiid had been fouled, and then they got the ball back. Actually, no, I think the ball went to the Jazz after that, since that counts as a possession. But then they got another technical on the other end, and then I think there was actually one more after that. Donovan Mitchell was ejected because he wanted a foul on Ben Simmons on a 3-point attempt from the corner. Now, here's the problem with that. Donovan can't be relying on that if he wants to win a game. Can't be relying on the refs for bailouts. And here's the other thing. The Jazz have to avoid putting themselves in these kind of situations. If they can execute, especially in the fourth quarter, you have to be able to execute. And also in the third quarter, they had issues with it. They have not adjusted the same way, and now they're going to lose 3 of 4 heading into the break. You really wanted to finish strong, 27-9. And now it's gonna be a close race to the 1 seed. The Jazz do have the second easiest schedule in that second half of the year, but man, it's just a tough loss for the Jazz. You don't want to see that kind of stuff happen, but also, Donovan, he took so many shots, man. He took 34 shots and he made 12 of them. 33 points. He was minus 11 on the floor, 6 assists, 8 rebounds. He was on paper, that's a pretty good game, but at the end of the game, if you watched it, he was just jacking up shots from everywhere, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. That is not what you need to do in the end of a game. It's not. You have to be more efficient. You have to. And also, execution was just off. It was an off game for the Jazz. Up until actually the fourth quarter, maybe the third quarter, it was a pretty good game for the Jazz, but they just kind of fell apart. Also, you didn't have that same big contribution from Jordan Clarkson. He had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. It's still a really good game, but come on. We got to have more contributions from those guys, and the Jazz are just going to take a really tough loss. One that could have been over if the refs would have overturned that call in the fourth quarter. That would have given the Jazz the ball and a chance to really seal that game up. But you know what? It just is going to happen with how the game went. And the Philadelphia 76ers are going to come out with a huge win over the Utah Jazz, the number 1 seed in the West. Still the number 1 seed in the NBA. 24-12 is what the Philadelphia 76ers are going to improve to, and Utah goes down to 27-9. We will be live over All-Star Weekend. We are going to be doing commentary on the All-Star Game and coming out with 2 videos. We're going to be looking at, can the Jazz contend? And after this game, it hurts. It hurts a little bit. But I still think that they have a solid chance. We'll break it down in the video for you guys. But also, the second one is going to be a second half of the schedule breakdown. And there's a lot of good things to go through in there, including a doubleheader to LA. So make sure, and that's the Lakers, by the way, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And hit that notification bell. I would love it if you did all of those things. But that is going to do it from me here for the Jazz Huddle. I'm Blake. Addison would normally be with me, but he just lost it after that call, so I had to do this one on my own. We will see you on Sunday for the All-Star Game. Bye-bye.